Fingerstyle guitar, the art of joining rhythm, harmonies, and melody in a single instrumental composition. Dating back to as early as the 18th century, where classical music pieces required polyphonic articulation that could only be achieved on the guitar by plucking multiple strings at once, fingerstyle really took its hold during the late 19th century when blues guitarists took advantage of the guitar's 6 strings to imitate the popular piano ragtime music of the time period. Fast forward to today, and fingerstyle guitar is no longer a genre. It's a guitar technique with an infinite number of applications and influence in genres as disparate as rock and pop and jazz and blues. In this lesson, we'll cover the very basics of fingerstyle guitar, and you'll walk away with practice exercises that will allow you to develop your hand articulation, synchronization, and overall fingerpicking abilities. If this is your first time ever picking up a guitar, I recommend you watch this video first because that'll give you all the basics that you need to know before we start. Once you've done that and you're all tuned up, we're ready to start playing fingerstyle. But before we get into the practice exercises, I want to go over a little bit of the basics for your right hand picking technique. First off, we want our hand to feel relaxed and comfortable. This means that your hand is probably going to approach the guitar strings at about a 40-degree angle with the horizontal. Depending on the specific style you're playing, it is common practice to adjust how bent your wrist is. For now, try to keep it about level with your forearm. As for your fingers, your thumb should rest slightly in front of your other fingers, and it will generally be taking care of the bottom 3 strings. Your index finger will then be assigned the G string, your middle finger to the B string, and your ring finger to the high E string. Some fingerstyle guitarists rest their pinky on the bottom of the guitar as an anchor, though I prefer to keep it poised beside my other fingers. As far as plucking the strings, it's common practice for fingerstyle guitarists to grow the nails on their picking hand to achieve a similar articulation and tone to pick playing. Personally, I find it kind of annoying to have long nails when it comes to anything outside of guitar playing, so I generally keep mine short and I play just with the flesh of my fingers, which is perfectly fine. When we're plucking the strings, we'll always be plucking downwards with the thumb and upwards with the other 3 fingers. Make sure you're not going too deep and coming from underneath the string because that can be too aggressive. We also don't want to just be grazing the top of the strings though and not going deep enough. So it's really just about finding that perfect balance that works for you. Of course, these are just generalizations and you might want that aggressive feel in your arrangement. Also, pay attention to where along the strings you're choosing to pluck. The tone up here by the neck is very different from the tone back by the bridge. So keep that in mind when you're arranging things and playing on the guitar. Kind of use that to your advantage to get the specific sound that you're looking for. Keeping all that in mind, let's dive into today's exercises. It's really just a single piece that I've broken down into various stages so that even if you're a complete beginner, you'll be able to work your way all the way up to the entire piece. The piece we'll be learning is the same one that I played at the very beginning of the video. I know this might seem a little bit intimidating right now, but like I said, I've broken it up into bite-sized chunks for even the beginner to eventually master this. So let's get right into it. Here's stage 1. So we're just focusing on the first 2 chords of the piece right now. This first one is a G major chord. And the second one is an E minor 7. And this is a perfect place to start off with fingerstyle because there's only one note that you have to fret between these 2 chords. So you'll be able to really focus on your picking hand. So we start with the G major chord up here on the 3rd fret of the low E. And from now on, I'm going to be referring to the strings using number notation, where the high E string is 1 and the low E string is 6. So with our picking hand in this G major chord shape, I like to play with my ring finger, and this is going to help things fall into place a lot easier later on. So I'm not going to go through all the fingerings every time I change a chord shape, but just try to copy what I'm doing. So you can just pause the video, whatever you need to do, to look at the screen and make sure that you're using the same fingers I am, because it's going to make everything flow the easiest. Okay, so in this G major chord shape, we're going to pick 6, 4, 3, 2. Now you'll notice that I'm picking the D string with my index finger here. Even though earlier in the video I claimed that the 3 lowest strings are generally reserved for the thumb. The reason for this is because it's just easier in this case, not having to jump my thumb down. And because I don't have to play that high E string, I don't have to worry about having not having a finger there, so I'm free to just shift up all these 3 bottom fingers to the string directly above them, like this. Okay, so we're going to do that pattern twice. Why don't you try it with me? 1, 2, 3, and... Now we're going to remove our fretting hand altogether, giving us the E minor 7th chord. And we're going to pluck the exact same strings in the exact same manner. It might be difficult at first, but try to get a nice smooth pattern in your picking hand. Once your fingers know the pattern, try using a metronome yourself. You want to start slow and make sure that you're in time, and then slowly speed it up as you feel comfortable. So now let's try doing the entire first exercise, going from the G major, which we played twice through that pattern, to the E minor 7, which we also played twice. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and... You'll notice that as I'm playing that, my wrist isn't really moving, nor is my forearm. The only things that are moving are my fingers. Okay, once you feel comfortable with that, it's time to move up to stage 2. This stage is very similar to stage 1, except for we're just adding a couple more notes on our picking pattern. Let me show you. So now instead of playing merely 6, 4, 3, 2, we're also going back up. 6, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Let's try it together alongside a metronome. We'll start on the G major chord and go to the E minor 7. 1, 2, and... Great, once that's feeling good, it's time for stage 3. Now we're going to complete the chord progression. Now that you got that picking pattern locked in on autopilot, it's time to throw in some more complex chord shapes, like this. So on top of the G major and E minor 7, we're adding a C major 7, an A minor 7, and a D sus4. Our picking pattern will remain almost identical, except when we move to the C major 7, A minor 7, and D sus4, we'll be plucking the 5th string every time we would normally be plucking the 6th string on the G major or E minor 7 chords. This is because the root notes of our C major 7, A minor 7, and D sus4 all lay on the 5th string, whereas the G major and E minor 7 roots lay on the 6th. Also note that I'm still plucking the 4th string with my index finger when I move on to these chords. Once again, it just makes things a lot easier in this scenario. Another important change here is that we're only playing the A minor 7 and D sus4 chords for half the time we're playing the other chords for. Meaning that instead of going 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, we simply play 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. If these chord shapes are new to you, then take some time to just focus on those and make sure you learn them. And once you're feeling ready, let's start together from the very top and go through stage 3 of this exercise. We're going to go a little bit faster with this one. 1, 2, and... Remember, the beauty about having a video tutorial is that you can pause it, you can rewind, you can put it in slow motion, do whatever you need to take the time and get this right. Also, if you prefer to just play along with the tabs, those should be linked down in the description below. Alright, now stage 4. We're going to be adding some passing notes in the bass to create some more movement in the piece, and this is going to put a little more strain on your fretting hand, so your right hand really needs to be locked in with that picking pattern. I want to walk you through all of the passing notes that we're going to be adding, starting at the very beginning. So we start on the G major chord as always, and as we're transitioning to the E minor 7 chord, we're going to add a pluck of the 2nd fret of the 6th string. So essentially we're walking down. And this is one of those reasons why it's a good idea to have the ring finger up here for the G. It's because now it makes it really easy for me to just switch to my middle finger to fret that 2nd fret. Now in order to keep the timing the same, we're going to simply replace the last note we would normally pluck on the G chord with this note on the low E string. Let me show you. Now we're going to use the same technique when passing from the E minor 7th to the C major 7 chord, except for now we're going to be playing the 2nd fret of the 5th string as our passing tone, like this. Then we'll play that same note on the 5th string once again when descending from the C major 7 to the A minor 7, like this. And lastly, as we're moving up from the A minor 7 to the D sus4, we're going to hit this 3rd fret of the 5th string, like that. Altogether, it should sound something like this. Once again, a little faster. 1, 2, and... Congrats, you made it to stage 5. This is where we really distinguish fingerstyle guitar from normal guitar, as we add a simple melody on top of these underlying notes that we've been playing all along. And we're not really changing any of those underlying notes, we're just adding a melody on top of it to where it's kind of like having multiple people playing together. Let me show you what I mean. So now we start with octaves on the 3rd fret of both the 6th and the 1st string instead of just the 6th as we were playing before for our G major. Then we finish off the rest of the G major chord just the same way we always have. But then when we hit that passing note on the 2nd fret of the 6th string, we're going to accompany it by a pluck of the 2nd string on the 1st fret here. Then as we enter the E minor 7th chord, we're going to pluck the 6th and 2nd strings, both open, together, instead of just the 6th string like we were doing previously. Then we finish off the E minor 7th chord just like normal before moving on to the passing tone to get up to our C major 7. On this passing tone, we're going to do the same thing we did on the passing tone going to the E minor 7, but now it's going to be accompanied by the 2nd fret of the 5th string, obviously. And then we're going to bring it up to the 3rd fret of the 5th string as we're going to our C major 7, accompanied by the open 2nd string. Now the rest of the C major 7 is exactly the same as we played before, as well as the A minor 7. Now when we go up to this D sus4 chord, the only change, actually there's 2 changes. So before we played that, now we're going to actually put our pinky on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So, and then just like before, we're going to come back to the 3rd string. But now instead of going back to the 4th, we're going to play the 1st string fretted on the 3rd fret, which will bring us back to our G major. Okay? Now going back to the fact that we're choosing to pluck the 4th string with our index, meaning that our middle finger takes the G string or the 3rd string, and our ring finger takes the 2nd string. When we pluck that 1st string, that means that we're going to be using our pinky, right? So all in all, here's the final version of our fingerstyle guitar exercise. Try to play it with me. 1, 2, and... Now you may have noticed that I accidentally threw in another note there on the A minor 7 on the 2nd string. But this brings up a good point that just because this is the final version of the exercise that I created, it doesn't by any means mean that we've exhausted the practice that you can get out of these chord shapes. So I want you to try to come up with your own exercises, maybe throw around different picking patterns instead of going just ascending, descending. Maybe try mixing it up. Go thumb, middle, index, ring. Right? Try adding different melodies on top of the chords. I want you to just mess around with this because in the end that's all music is. It's just your own self-expression, creativity, and it's about having fun. So I encourage you to make up your own stages, and I hope that you enjoyed and got something out of the 5 stages that I presented you with today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.